So,
I enjoyed it.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is 4:52. And I wanted you to eat so you'd be in a better mood.
Well, I can't see
I'll
the
entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. I got you. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. But you know what? Let's just take that microphone right there. Just stand up and do it from where you are, because we gotta be moving, and I can't. Go ahead, Mark Knight,
I move to adopt the agenda
with flexibility.
with flexibility.
Second by Diane Diston. All in favor of accepting the agenda with flexibility, please raise your voting cards. All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes for the March 25th, 2019 meeting. Microphone. There to see if the PA system is actually on. Is it working now?
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I move to adopt the minutes for the March 25th meeting.
Do I have a second? Second by Yvonne Basich. All in favor of accepting the minutes for March 25th, 2019? Raise your voting cards. Thank you very much. So, under appearances today, I'm gonna click through the agenda because I want us to be on that bus and smoking at 6. Thank you very much, Felix. We're not smoking that kind of stuff. It's not legal in there. Okay? All right, so, I wanted to just say a couple things. First of all, is after this meeting, we do have a bus. For those of you that want to go to county council and ride the bus, so you don't have to worry about driving, you don't have to worry about parking. The county council meeting starts at 7, and so we want to go meet up there in front. If you would like a red shirt to wear to the meeting, if you don't have your red shirt on, you can make sure that you have a red shirt if you want one. If you got on a bad red suit, you can wear that anyway. I see that. I see. So this is a very busy time, and the one thing I am gonna say to you is the same thing I've been saying to you for the past 2 years. We have to show up, speak up, and what? Step up, okay? So, right now, we have somebody who's been really working hard on our behalf in Annapolis. Check 1, 2. The reason why I use the mic is I had vocal cord surgery a couple of years ago, for those of you who don't know, so I can't talk at a loud level for a sustained period of time. So, today we are fortunate to have one of my work husbands from Annapolis, the political director for MSCA, political director, Mr. Sean Johnson.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
As my wife apparently said, I'm Sean Johnson. I'm the legislative and political director at MSCA, and I'm here today to share with you and to really thank you for helping us have a really successful legislative session this year. We knocked it out of the park with the number of bills that we were able to pass and really make great progress for our public schools. I'm going to cover a number of them. There is a one-pager flyer on the back table with the other materials that I hope you picked up and we can make sure you otherwise have. I'm also happy to individually afterwards talk with you about any specific issue that you may have heard about that the General Assembly took up. But really, I want to run through this and share some of these highlights. I want to start by showing off this picture from the March for Our Schools. PGCEA turned out. You guys, give yourselves a round of applause. Tremendous work from the staff team organizing, from the reps, from the leadership team here. You turned out huge numbers of people. We had the most people march on Annapolis than over the last 10 years, and it made a huge difference. Nothing was guaranteed for us this legislative session. We had a brand new General Assembly. Nearly 40% of the delegates and senators were new to their positions. This was our opportunity to introduce them to who we are, and what a powerful way to do it. We went and we marched to pass the blueprint for Maryland's future. And a few weeks after this rally, that is exactly what we did. We passed the blueprint for Maryland's future. The blueprint adds $1.1 billion over the course of the next 3 years to our public schools. That is a huge new investment in school funding. And it's not just a number that we should celebrate that, hey, yeah, that's a lot more money. But that money is rooted in really important policies, some of which are outlined here. First is that we are going to see significant teacher pay raises. The idea is that there's money in the blueprint for Maryland's future so that locals are doing at least 3% of a pay raise at the local level, and then the state would add on roughly about 1.5%, so that we would see a 4.5% pay raise on average for all teachers in the state of Maryland. And it's not just classroom teachers. The definition of teacher in this bill is about anyone who is in the certificated bargaining unit with teachers. And so it was an expansion to make sure that we are not forgetting school psychologists and social workers and other, I know some of those definitions vary by school district. Some of those definitions vary by school district. But nonetheless, this was a major improvement of that definition as the bill was introduced, and it's going to help us see pay increase across the state. Another piece of this bill is that we are going to see, right now the state of Maryland has about 50 community schools in the state. Most of them are in Baltimore City. I know this is an imperative of PGCEA in Prince George's County, but under this bill, we're going to add 219 community schools in the state of Maryland for fiscal year 20. There are 40, what is the number in Prince George's? Yeah, 45, 46 community schools, they're not new school buildings, newly identified community schools in Prince George's County. And what this means, what this designation is for, it's calculated by any school that has 80% or more of its students on free or reduced price meals. That's what constitutes this definition of concentrated poverty, where it gets the support of community schools, which is the idea of having a community school coordinator, school health-based support, and wraparound services to really meet the unique needs of what it takes to educate students coming from concentrated poverty. The blueprint for Maryland's future includes expansion of pre-K for districts that are currently doing half-day. It wants to get them to full-day pre-K for 4-year-olds. If you're already doing full-day pre-K, the state's going to basically reimburse the county for its expenditures on that expense. There, over the course of the next 2 years, $130 million more in state aid for special education. That's on top of what is currently funded for special ed under existing formulas. There's new money for reading and math tutors, which I'll speak to more in a second. There is the creation of an inspector general for education. I think Prince George's County has been at been in this conversation for a good number of years, whether it's about trying to make progress on different areas and central office getting in the way, money not getting to the classroom to where it should be going. This is designed to root out some of the waste, fraud, and abuse that makes it harder for you to do your job. And then really the bottom point here is that the blueprint was the first step. It really outlines the first 3 years of what's expected to be a 10 or 11-year phase-in of the recommendations of the Kirwan Commission. This is the commission that you all have been hearing me and Teresa and others talk about for years now, which is really trying to will create a new school funding formula that will make sure that we're not just creating one-off solutions every year. The last time the state adopted a school funding formula was 2002. a new one. That was the Thornton formula. And we've been working with that since that time. That's been outdated and frankly broken for the last decade or so. And we've been trying to solve it by saying, oh yeah, let's have that money and then add on this grant, and then add on this grant, and this grant. And all those grants become one-time money and uncertainty at the local level, that we need a new formula that allows all of these things to continue moving forward and frankly gets us out of the chronic underfunding at the state level and force the issue at the local level, something I know you guys are doing later today. So the blueprint was a huge success. That was just one bill this year. Yay. I know this is a teacher local, but we spend a lot of time in our legislative agenda fighting for education support professionals as well. Part of that advocacy this year was that we joined the Fight for 15 coalition, which moves Maryland to be just one of a handful of states that is going to increase our state minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025. In fact, we'll see an annual raise in the minimum wage every January starting next year till 2025. Now, we have about 16,000 education support professionals around the state who make more than 1010, the current state minimum wage, but make less than $15 an hour. So they're going to see their wages directly impacted by this. It's also going to create some upward pressure on people who make just above $15 now, that as that minimum wage creeps up, that we would see their wages go up as well. So that's an important part of our legislative and bargaining strategy. On the last slide, I mentioned new money for tutoring programs for math and reading support. It's $23 million a year in the blueprint bill, and that is money that could go towards reading specialists, which might be a teacher position, but it could also go to paraprofessionals and the like to really grow some of our education support ranks as well. Some other major wins. Look, frankly, if we just talked about the blueprint and the fight for 15, it could be a drop the mic moment of a successful legislative session. But we did even more than that, including this year we passed legislation again to add an active teacher to the State Board of Education. You may know that Maryland is one of 11 states currently that specifically prohibits a teacher from being on the State Board of Education. Because why would we need your expertise on such a board? So this bill changes that by having a dedicated seat that is not someone's political pawn and appointee. This dedicated seat is elected by you. Every certificated teacher in the state would be eligible to participate in an election to represent the teacher representative on the state board. We also, for the first time, exceeded $500 million in school construction for this upcoming fiscal year. We had never done more than $380 million in any one single year. So this was a huge boost to address really dilapidated buildings for upgrades, renovations, but also new construction. And we were a part of the effort to fix the school calendar debacle, in many people's opinions, of making sure that there's local control in when schools start and end. That doesn't mean that schools can't continue to start after Labor Day. They still can. It's just they're not going to be forced to do it. And so that's going to be left to local boards of education and calendar committees, exactly as it should be, to allow different jurisdictions to tackle what their needs are and make it an education-based decision and not have any funnel cakes you can sell on the Ocean City Boardwalk decision. We also had success in holding non-public schools accountable by tackling some of the discriminatory practices that happen in non-public schools now, particularly around gender identity or sexual orientation. And we actually decreased the amount of money that exists in the state's voucher program for the first time ever. It always grown a little bit each year. This year, this coming year will be the first time it's less since Governor Hogan's been in office when he created the program. I mentioned the Fight for 15, MSCA, PGCA. A lot of your success, our success, is because you are bringing the community together to accomplish things. And our coalitions that we are part of are important in that regard. Fight for 15 was a part of that. We were also a part, Casa de Maryland was a lead coalition partner, but that we were able to make progress to expand the provisions of the DREAM Act for undocumented students leaving high school, that instead of needing to go directly to community college, they could pay in-state tuition rates at any public university that they get into. That's what the DREAM Act expansion is. We also were a part of the Tobacco 21 Coalition, which is increasing the age in which someone can buy tobacco products from 18 to 21. Why would MSCA be part of this? Well, many of you, many of our members, reached out to us about the vaping epidemic that's happening, particularly in high schools, but frankly in middle schools as well. And joining this coalition was part of taking that on. The e-cigarettes, vaping products are they're subject to the same rules as traditional tobacco products. And so it's meant to really tackle that public health risk. A couple of other things before I wrap up, in case you're sick of winning yet, don't be sick yet. We won by passing some other bills. We also win in our legislative agenda from time to time by playing defense, by defeating bad things. On some things that we won, that we passed, we made real progress in addressing trauma-informed instruction as part of our wraparound services. In the blueprint bill, we expanded the use of restorative practices as part of our discipline policies. We actually passed a bill. You may know that your local board of education is responsible for hiring, well, yours isn't, in other jurisdictions, responsible for hiring the superintendent. Sorry, let me move on and save that talking point for another audience.
Yeah.
We defeated some attacks on our pension system that wanted to close off our defined benefit pension system and make it a real 401k based cash balance plan. That bill died. We helped defeat that. We helped defeat right to work, another anti-union effort in the state. That was a big win. And there was a bill in that wanted to prioritize charter schools, put them at the head of the list when it comes to school construction funding. And it said the first $25 million of any school construction needed to be spent on charter schools, and we defeated that as well. So we win by defeating things from time to time as well. Let me just conclude on some fights ahead. Passing the blueprint for Maryland's future was huge. We still need Governor Hogan to act on this bill. His office has not sent any public indication. There's been some private indication that we think he will either support it or let it become law without his signature. We won't know that until he indicates if he's going to sign it, or if he were to veto it. He typically announces his vetoes the Friday before Memorial Day, because he wants to make sure no one pays attention to his vetoes. That would be May 24th. So we're just a few weeks away from the time that he needs to make this decision. We are applying in our own right and with our coalition partners pressure on the governor to sign the blueprint for Maryland's future and make sure that money is released for this immediate fiscal year. This work of the Kirwan Commission, I mentioned the blueprint is the first couple of years of a decade-long implementation strategy. We have to do the rest of that work. The Kirwan Commission has to finish its work in terms of recommending what these new school formulas are and what the split is between state money and local money. And then the final point is that those recommendations are going to create the big bill, the big Kirwan-related bill on a new school funding formula in 2020. What it is, how we pay for it, and the like. And so your continued engagement and advocacy in this is critical. Your ability to communicate these victories to your colleagues and credit them for helping us get there is critical for keeping them engaged and focused on the fight you have in Upper Marlboro tonight and the fight that we will have ahead in the 2020 legislative session to continue to do big things. So thank you for helping us accomplish so much this year. It means a lot to me at the staff level to be able to do a job that I love on your behalf, but I only do it because you are stepping up and owning your profession. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping us have this success this year. So with that, I know you guys need to get moving, but I'm happy to answer a question or two as time permits. Do you want questions first, or you want me to do that? Teresa mentioned this Sunday before the final day of session. You're probably aware that Speaker of the House, Mike Bush, he died, creating a vacancy in the speakership. It's a very important position in the scheme of calling the shots and setting the agenda of what happens in Annapolis. There will be a special session convened on Wednesday of this week, so just 2 days from now, where the House of Delegates will elect a new speaker. It started as 3 candidates. We're down to 2 candidates. One is a Prince Georgian, Derek Davis. The other is Maggie McIntosh. They are both incredibly respected. They are both committee chairs. He chairs the Economic Matters Committee. She chairs the Appropriations Committee. There is a lot of scuttlebutt about how this vote is going to end up going down. MSEA has weighed in with a bunch of our coalition partners that said, for our progressive agenda to keep moving forward, we need to make sure that the next speaker is voted by the majority of the Democratic caucus. We are not a partisan organization, but I can tell you when the Republican caucus votes in a block, it is typically against some of the very things that I spoke of tonight and some of the things that we've worked on in the past. And there's been some discussion of the path to the speakership is because you need 71 votes. That, these millions of votes that it takes to win a presidential election or whatever, the speaker is elected by, it takes 71 votes out of 141 members of the House of Delegates. They're the only ones who get to vote. 42 of them are Republicans, 99 of them are Democrats. And so all it takes is 29 Democrats to partner with 42 Republicans to get to 71 votes. And so if Derek Davis gets a majority of the Democratic caucus, we demand that Maggie McIntosh's supporters support Derek for Speaker. And the reverse is true too. If Maggie McIntosh walks out of the Democratic caucus with a majority of that caucus, we think the best path for the our Kerwin agenda and our progressive agenda is to coalesce behind her, and we would ask Derek Davis supporters to do that. So that's what will go down on Wednesday. It all happens Wednesday. The Democratic caucus meets Wednesday at 10. The House of Delegates convenes at noon. So stay tuned. It's fascinating.
Mark Dyden, Northwestern High School. Thank you for doing all that. I'm glad to see that happen. We did pass in the Maryland does the convention a proposal which came out of this delegation to take class size off of the list of illegal bargaining topics. And we passed that rather overwhelmingly, and I didn't see anything, and I'm wondering if any proposal put forward, even though we agreed to do that. I'm just wondering if that's going to be a priority for the next legislative session.
Yes, I think it will be. It was ultimately what ended up happening at the RA was that got moved into our legislative agenda as a specific item. And so if you haven't seen it, you should definitely look at the 7-8 page legislative program that MSEA puts forward. We are the Maryland State Everything Association after you read that, with the priorities that we have on all sorts of issues. And so making class size a permissible subject of bargaining is now an item in that legislative program. There was not a specific bill that had a path to victory on that issue this year. It is something that, as we talk through some of the expansion of collective bargaining rights, and as we talk through, frankly, some of the cost expectations, projections related to Kerwin, that becomes a challenge and an opportunity. If it becomes, obviously what we would be arguing is let's negotiate that, not set it at a certain threshold. If you set it at a certain threshold, class size at X, you have an opportunity to really be gamed by the numbers. Because right now, the state of Maryland would tell you that our student ratio is something like 16-1. I mean, that's laughable, right? They basically divide the number of students by anything with resembling a heartbeat in the school to come up with that ratio. And so it's been really hard to determine what the right number is. The right path is to say let it be a permissible subject to bargaining, but we haven't figured out how to do that yet. Any other questions on this session or otherwise? Yes.
When does the, become veto proof? Is there a deadline by which he needs to veto it or does he can't?
Yes, it's basically the end of May. If the clock runs out, if he hasn't taken any action, it becomes law without his signature.
On your what?
It's probably more like May 28th, but yes, basically the end of May. The reason I can't calculate the day is because of the death of the speaker, I don't actually know when the bill got physically presented to the governor's office, which starts the ticking of a clock of 30 days. So, not counting Sundays and weird math, but basically the end of May is when we would know for sure if he has signed it, vetoed it, or it becomes law without his signature.
So
If he
best
were
case-
to veto it, oh, go ahead.
Best case, he signs it. Second best, he just lets it slide through. Worst case, he vetoes.
And if he were to veto it, we would actually be calling on, we've had some preliminary conversations with Speaker Bush's office at the time, and President Miller's office about the need to convene a special session specifically to override the veto. But for it to be overridden and for it to save us for fiscal year 20, it would have to be overridden by June 30th. So they would not have a lot of time to do that. And this uncertainty in leadership makes it hard to plan for that at this point in time. So we are hoping, and look, there's several things that were put in the blueprint for Maryland's future that were designed to earn Governor Hogan's signature, including that whole conversation we had about the Inspector General. That was a big push that Governor Hogan has had over the years. That provision of the bill says it only is enacted if the governor signs and releases the funding for fiscal 20. So there are some kind of carrots built into the bill. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sean. And one thing I didn't do, and I am remiss of this, that we should have a moment of silence for the speaker. Thank you. And just so you know, he was a teacher before he became a legislator. So, I know I'm going to send a donation to the fund that they set up. Is this something I can use? Hello? Is something I can use? Okay, so today is gonna be kind of an abbreviated meeting. How many of you have been reading the Newsette? Excellent. Please, I think there's copies in the back for you. If they're not copies, you can always print it out, put it up on the bulletin board in your buildings. The contract does allow for us to have a bulletin board in your building. If you do not have one, you can always make one. It's a good way to get, those people that are sitting in the teacher's lounge on it. Okay, so now we have our treasurer's report. Here's our treasurer, Donna Christie. Come on now, y'all clap louder than Wizard. Come on.
It's okay. I'm Friday tired on Monday. It's gonna be a long week. All right. So in the back, you should have a copy of the proposed budget for next year. We will be moving this at the next meeting. This is so that you have plenty of time to review it. If you have any questions, please email them to me at, y'all ready? Y'all ready for the email address? D as in Donna, D, Christie, CHRISTY, at mseanea.org. If you have any questions about the budget, send them to that email address, please. Okay? And you see what they're voting on. It will take away a lot of confusion. What line are you talking about? What page are you talking about? Fill out the form. And that way you're sure to have all the information people need in order to take action. Okay? So I'm on the agenda 3 times, but that was one time for 3. I'm not coming back up again. Hey, everybody good? Thank you. I'm tired.
Leadership doesn't get to be tired. We gotta fake it till we make it sometimes. So, we're gonna move into the agenda, and I'm gonna move to for the sake of time, there are a couple of committees that I do want to highlight for you. One is the grievance committee. Did I see John, Mr. Otis, is in the back over there? If you're interested in serving on our grievance committee, please see him. We have about 4 or 5 members now. I could live with 7, okay? If you're interested, please see the handsome man in the back. And that was my Joe Biden moment for today. Okay? Minority Affairs Committee, I believe they are in the back room, in the boardroom, reading all of the scholarship applications. And we received over 50 scholarship applications this year. So that's good. We don't normally receive that many. People are out there getting the word out. I know I've been talking about it a lot. Do you know the date for the scholarship ceremony? May 23rd? May 23rd at 6:30 here. Thank you, board member Annette Jones. I want to touch on the NECC and the elections for a minute. Everyone should have received notification as to whether or not they're a delegate and had to have responded by Friday to Adrian. If you did not respond and let her know that you're going, you're not going. We're filling those positions with alternates because we sent out emails. It's been posted on the website who won. So, and I hate to sound mean about it, but we are accountable to MSCA and to NEA for turning in our list of delegates. And if we wait, then we lose seats, and it's not fair to those people that are on top of things. As a building rep, I'm gonna ask you to please check your personal email regularly. If you check it once a week, you'll get 99% of what we send out. We're trying not to send out a whole bunch of emails to people. If I send you an email, if it comes from President Teresa Dudley, you need to read that, because that's really something important, because I don't send out a whole lot of stuff. And so those things are important, especially when we're in these last couple of weeks of negotiations. I really need you to move on those. But we already had one caucus meeting already for the convention. So if you missed that caucus meeting, then you need to see Adrian, raise your hand, about that. If you are a state delegate, your time has passed to let Maura Taylor know whether or not you're gonna go. So we did have a couple of people who, people just need to be timely about stuff. I'm not gonna go into all that. Sparks, you have an announcement? No? Yes? You're eating? Aren't we having an upcoming Sparks Interest event?
Yeah, soon, we'll be meeting with.
Okay, so it's coming up.
Yes.
All right, so I don't mean to put her on the spot, but Sparks is something that I have really been pushing to get more people active and engaged. We will take a busload of people down to the MSCA convention. And it's gonna be people who haven't been engaged in the association so they can see about what it is that we do. If you're not a delegate to the convention and you're a building rep, please see me so that you can come and see. And then those Sparks get leadership training, And eventually they end up chairing a committee like Philomena, on the board of directors like Zena. And who else, where are the other Sparks? Sparks, they're all on committees. Dominique Bivens is working with the NECC. It's a great way for us to get people involved. So I can't tell you how great that is. We take them to Ocean City, and I want you to talk to your people in the building about it. We take them to Ocean City for the weekend, for the convention. They stay over Thursday night, Friday night. They get to see what's going on. They get to take classes. And it shouldn't be too hard to get people to do it this year, because guess what? If they come in there as Sparks, they get 4 EPD. So, and guess what? We're gonna be off on the 18th. It's a professional development day, so we don't have to use, I think that may have happened after the meeting, I'm not sure. Gotta keep it pushing. I got 31 minutes, we got a lot to do, okay? The restorative practices, social justice, I know Robin McNair is here. If you are interested in taking a restorative practices training, you need to see Robin McNair. Raise your hand, Robin, she's in the back. If you are interested in taking a restorative practices training, there's gonna be some trainings that are gonna be offered this summer. And we're working on dates and times and everything. So, but if she doesn't know you want to go to trainings, we wouldn't know to get that information. When we get the date set, we'll put it in the Newsette. Okay? Is that good?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, and the self-care circle for educators will be May 30th.
May 30th, self-care. If you're not, don't think you're gonna make it to the end of the year, come to the self-care. Don't hurt nobody. Okay? May 30th, 4:30 here at PGCEA. Okay, that'll be in the Newsette this week. Okay, so now I want to move us into bargaining for the common good. Do we want to do this in executive session? Okay, so we're going to do an update on bargaining for the common good. And here's Jennifer Epps, our chief negotiator and executive director. And keeping the president from putting her foot in her mouth. She does that too.
Really quick, because I know we gotta get out of here, and I wanna get to the good stuff. So when we started, we did a survey of a lot of our members. We got up to 2,500 surveys to find out what folks cared about for this bargaining session. And what it came out to being is, number one clearly was compensation, workload, health and safety, and respect and voice. We got a lot of folks interested in the contract action team as well. Wrong way. So where we were. So if you guys don't remember, as you should remember, last year we did a lot of activity, especially towards the end of the year. There was the Occupy Sasser, there was the Work to Rule, there was bargaining for common good training that folks did, and so did the CAT team. They did a lot of training both last year and this year. So also, we did a lot, this year we did a lot of school board meetings. We've had parent-teacher unity sessions. We've had contract strategy sessions. And as you heard before, and you were probably there, we marched for our schools, and we won big at the state level. Locally, we've been doing bargaining for the common good sessions. If you haven't been, which I'm looking around, most people in this room have been, and they've been phenomenal because people have gotten to see what the process looks like. And then then we had a county council session where folks filibustered the county council last week. So that brought us to where we are right now and what they've offered. And I just wanted to go through it with folks just so they could get an idea of where we are. So So on sensible workload, we made a lot of proposals, just so you know. We paid like 50 proposals, right, Claudette? Claudette's looking. And the team painstakingly, went and created proposals based on what folks said that they wanted in those surveys. So sensible workload, we broke it down into 8 different plans. What they agreed to, or what they've offered so far is 1 day a quarter, and I'm just giving you the highlights because there's more. But they offer 1 day a quarter for special educators to be able to do IEP work. They've offered no changes to 11 months, from 10 to 11 months for counselors, athletic directors, and PPW. No additional planning time. On evaluations, there's been some substantive changes to the workload of evaluations that they proposed. So right now we have 50-50 with 50% student growth, 50% professional practice, and what they propose is 70-30, as well as a lot of changes with going down from 2 to 1 SLO.
I'm sorry.
Slow that down.
Little pig is going on. Healthy learning environments and safety and security. They supposedly have developed a whole lot of administrative procedures, which we have not seen yet, so we're waiting to see what those look like. As far as professional autonomy, the only thing they've agreed to is to make some changes in the guidelines around collaborative planning. And 2 days at the beginning of the year and 1 at the end of the year just for teacher autonomy for us to be able to do, for you guys to be able to do what you need to do. As far as fair compensation, they have made no agreement or no proposals on law steps. Boo, you can boo that. They offered more money for tuition reimbursement, about $500,000 more. They've offered so far in terms of compensation for the first year, 1 step for everyone, a 1.5% COLA, which means that would hit the entire scale, and an additional step at the top. As far as small class sizes, they've agreed to our proposals. We just wanted to, one of the things I'm just gonna say, we were surprised, I was, because nobody in the state of Maryland has been negotiating around class sizes at all. At all. And the fact that this is not the end, this is just the beginning to really deal with class sizes in a contractual way. Less testing and more learning. Again, we put it on the table. We said, let them tell us no. And they agreed to it. Student conduct and restorative practices. What they've agreed to so far is to support trainings and an emolument for those restorative practice coordinators. And I'm just saying, this is where we are. This is not where we're going to end. But I just wanted to give an update as to where we were.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to just remind us before Allison and Yvonne come up, we were clear about our commitment that we wanted to have a 3-year contract that included compensation in 3 ways. And the first one being, we can't fall further behind, so we have to make sure that we keep up with steps moving forward. The second thing is, or the, kind of on the side, I'm gonna go to the other side, is we have to deal with restorative steps. We will not settle a contract without dealing with this issue. I ain't promising that it's all gonna be in the first year either. I wanna be clear about that. Cost of living adjustments. We have to deal with the cost of living adjustments because we are falling further behind as it relates to the DMV. We're 9 out of 9 in terms of what we are receiving in terms of our compensation. So we can't continue to not have COLAs because then we'll fall even further and further and further behind. So with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Allison and Yvonne, who can tell you from the perspective of members being on the bargaining team, how they feel they should.
Hey everybody, Allison Harkins, High Point High School. So I can honestly say that I am very, very disappointed with this Board of Education. Given the legislative successes that we just heard about a few minutes ago with more money coming to educators, to have them sit across from us and tell us that they have no plan to restore our steps. It was all I could do to stay in my seat, to be quite honest with you. I find it insulting, and I think most of you do as well. I think they take us for granted. I think they believe we are just gonna roll over and say, okay, we'll take whatever crumbs you wanna throw us. I think they're wrong. I know me personally, I have no intention of accepting anything less than restoration of the steps. And mind you, that's not the only issue, but for a lot of us, it is the main issue. And if you add up that money over time, it's quite a bit of cash that we're losing out on. So, you know, when I think about unions, I always think about that saying. I think it was Frederick Douglass that said, power concedes nothing without a demand. So when you go back to your schools and people ask you, because you know they're gonna ask, so what did they say at the meeting about negotiations? What they said about the meeting, about the negotiations at the meeting is that we all need to get off our butts, get yourselves to the meetings, do whatever you are asked to do for PGCEA. Because they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna give this up easily, but we're not going down without a fight. So, that's all.
Hi, everybody. I feel everything that Allison said. However, I've been doing this for a very long time, and while we have been doing it completely differently in the past, I know that the agreements, the real agreements about money don't come until the very end. Until they realize that we might actually do something that they won't like. So they keep pushing, we keep pushing, they push back, we push back, it keeps going, but the money stuff does not get agreed on at the beginning or the middle, only right up to the deadline. So I don't want you to lose heart, okay? Yes, they are SOBs when it comes to negotiating, but the team that's with us now, all they are is, they don't make the policy. They don't say yes or no. They just give us the information that the Board of Education is giving to them, or the CEO. So, it doesn't make any sense to get mad at them, because they're just giving us what other people have told them. They do not make the decisions. I don't want you to lose heart. We are going to push hard, and we're going to come up with some strategies to make this more public, for the public to understand what we are doing and why we're doing it, and to gain their support. So action is coming, and that's where you come in. Okay, that's where we need a lot of people to be visible, and I'm not sure quite what that is going to look like yet, but it is coming. I remember that when we picketed schools, our own schools, not even everybody, just a few, boy, did the board get upset. Why are you doing that? Why, you know, like washing dirty laundry in the... So that's the kind of thing that we need to do. not over until the fat lady sings, as they say. You're not singing? You know, it's hard. It's getting this.
When they decide to give Maxwell's money and don't give us, it's a problem. That's right.
What?
It's a problem.
Okay, so I won't sign anything that doesn't have step restore with it, I'm gonna tell you that right now. It doesn't have to happen today, but the issue has to be addressed. We've been working too hard on this over the past year for something, for this to happen. So, having said that,
Good question.
yes,
President. The two proposals that you said we put forward and they accepted, one was on class size and one was on testing. Where do we find, it's online exactly?
So if you go on pdca.org and you look for bargaining for the common good news, you click there, all the proposals are there.
Thank you.
I'm trying to keep you accountable. So right now, I would like to, give my president's report, and then I want to move quickly into executive session to have a conversation with you about some things that, I don't want on YouTube, okay?
Right. Say no more.
Not right this
No,
second.
no, not right now, but when you're done, I will be done too.
And I'm not talking about cussing.
Ms. Dudley, can I ask one quick question, President Dudley?
Yes,
With that additional step at the top, does that mean those at the top are gonna automatically move that step?
yes.
Okay.
That's what's in the proposal.
Okay, but they accepted that, right?
Okay, don't lose that thought, okay? All right, so, we know our kids can't wait, right? This is, I mean, we can say it's about money for us, but we know that along with money for us, this is about the children. And that's what I want us to keep saying, this is about the children, because it is about the children. Because no child deserves to sit in front of a new teacher every year, because people are leaving the county and we can't retain people here in the county to teach. There is a brain drain right now of people who were those mid-level folks that said, I got 10 years in, I'm 3 steps back, I'm out. That make sense? So I get that, and you can ask Jennifer and Ray and Gary that is the foremost thing on my mind whenever I get an update about what's going on in negotiations. Now, there is a reason why I am not on the negotiations team. The reason why I am not on the negotiations team is because you do not want your negotiations team fighting. Because I'm gonna make somebody really mad in that room if I'm at the table, I know that. But it also gives me the opportunity, because I'm not on the negotiations team, to raise sand in other directions in dealing with the elected officials that are not at the table. Oh, there we go. Okay, go back to the beginning. Okay, so, that's the end. No, it's not. Oh, okay, so I told you guys about this when I did the presentation at the legislative reception. Thornton Commission laid the groundwork. Now the Kerwin funding, and I want to just make sure you understand what the down payment was that Sean was talking about, is that Thornton focused on equity, that all of the counties in Baltimore City should have the same amount of money per student, period. It helped Wycomico County, it helped some of the other really outside counties, because they just don't have the resources to fund their schools like Prince George's County. But our problems are different. They just keep building and building and building and don't provide money for the schools. That's a whole nother conversation, okay? So the Kerwin funding, the down payment is for site coordinators for community schools. So all 40 of our community schools will have a site coordinator. The second thing is that there are concentrated poverty grants that will help us here in Prince George's County. Those concentrated poverty grants are some of them, there's one concentrated poverty grant to retain educators. That's where that 1.5% where the county has to match it. And if they match it, then there's a 3% raise for us, for a whole scale. And that's what the matching raises is. Click. You want me to? Yeah, okay. So tonight is the county council meeting, okay? And May 7th is supposed to be Teacher Appreciation Day, okay? So, I don't know about you, but I'm not feeling real appreciated right now. So, we had a conversation about having a anti-teacher appreciation day, unappreciated teacher day on May the 7th. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute, okay? Am I doing this wrong? Okay, so, we're looking with the Kerwin Commission assistance. These are our priorities: the restoral of steps, improving compensation, and to attract educators. Compensation task force, we will meet with them next week. We'll have an update on that. That's when they're gonna tell us how bad we are, right? Like we don't already know that. A lot of you already saw the graphic, right? That showed Prince George's County and other jurisdictions that we put on our Facebook. Restorative practices, CTE, vocational training, mental health, trauma schools, community schools, class sizes, and our evaluation system. We have met with the administration about changes to our evaluation system. You are gonna see a significant reduction in workload for your evaluations and for the SLOs. And it is our intent that there will only be one SLO for next year. And the way that we do it is gonna be made easier, and the negotiations team has been working on a proposal to limit your evaluation so that they can't say, well, you didn't upload it right. Right? It cannot be, you can't get an ineffective evaluation because of a technical reason. That's what we're trying to negotiate. Because that was some shiggity that happened. Okay? I'm learning not to cuss. Okay, so, community schools. I'm the vice chair of the community schools implementation team for the county. I'm working with Dr. Talley, Adrian Talley, Sheila Jackson, the T&I coordinator for the county, and other folks. The policy is already in place. If you want a copy of the community schools policy, we can get it for you. I think, as a matter of fact, we should post that on our website. And it includes restorative practices and the 6 pillars, which I'm not gonna belabor the point about. So this weekend, we had a Civic Academy over at CASA, and it was really good. We're gonna be doing these all over. So if your PTA wants a Civic Academy for the parents in that school, or you can get a cluster, where is my GR chair? Where'd she go? I know I saw her. Oh, I'm sorry, I can only see but so far with these glasses. Christy Lynch has been talking about clustering our schools so that the building reps in certain areas can work together. What we'd like to do is have those civic academies and invite PTAs from different clusters. So that's where I need you to help me. You gonna help me with that? Okay, good. So, I'll put her on the spot. So we need volunteers to assist in the school site trainings where we're gonna do at different PTAs, because we only have limited staff. We wanna get to as many places as possible. So if you think if you're willing to work with Christy Lynch on this, we're gonna talk about this some more at the GR committee meeting on Wednesday. And if you're a member of a community organization, so how many Greeks do I have in the room? Okay, so we need the AKAs, I just say that only because they was the first one that came to my mind. The Deltas, okay, I'm not a Delta, but I just like red, okay? So, your church, if your church wants to have a civic engagement training, we can do it there. More dates will be coming, okay? Community schools, like I said, there'll be site coordinators, the site training, volunteer support. When we put in when the community schools get implemented, we don't want the school system to just come in and tell us what a community school should look like. there should be somebody, those who've been around long enough know what the SPMT meetings are supposed to be about, right? Well, when they went to school-based budgeting, the principal said, I don't really need that too much anymore, okay? So now, and that was Coma, but now we need to train our members on what community schools is about. It took me about 3 months before I could really have an elevator speech about it. So if you're gonna be working in a community school, you need to know what's gonna happen. So this past week, I went to Vancouver, and it was really an interesting experience. Vancouver has about 160,000 people in it, and they have basically 3 demographic groups. They have the wealthy white folks, excuse me, yeah, I'm just saying they're white, okay? They have wealthy white people, Caucasians, if that makes you feel better. And then they have Asian Pacific Islanders, and then they have Latinos. Okay, so they have some African Americans, probably about maybe 3% of the population. So culturally, they're different than Prince George's County, culturally. However, what we learned was amazing, and I am so excited about a couple of the things that I learned. One was that they have county-wide services in philanthropy. Right now, the county, every school does something different, you know, and they can get things from different sources. Some use approved vendors. Some have sororities and fraternities volunteering at them. Some have churches who have claimed a school. But there's not a portal for everybody to go through. So we need a conduit, a county-wide services person to be able to deal with that. So if one school needs drug training, right, drug counseling, and another school needs drug counseling, who do they go to get that service? We don't have all our service providers in alignment. That's one thing we're gonna be working on. The other thing is they have a lot of corporations. Like, why isn't Lockheed Martin, they do some at Duval and a couple of the other high schools, but are they really giving a significant amount of money? University of Maryland's here, Andrews Air Force Base is here. All of these businesses that are here, Costco, they have Columbia, the Columbia Apparel. They're in Portland. So when you return something to Columbia in the mail, if you bought it and you shipped it back, they just give that stuff to the kids. So we have, isn't Under Armour around here somewhere? They can give us. I'm just saying, there's resources at our disposal. What I liked about it, the other thing I liked about it was one of the schools had this program called Room Service. And if I don't do anything else, I'm gonna get this implemented, okay? Basically what it is if a teacher's having a problem with a student who's just being disorderly in the class, they call the office and ask for room service. And what happens is an administrator or a guidance counselor will come to your classroom and cover your class while you handle your students. If I need to call that parent, because you know they're on the phone with the parents before you can even write the PS-74. So it does a couple of things. One, it empowers the teacher. Because I have not surrendered my disciplinary power over to the administrator. Number two, it gives you a document of how many times you've had to call for room service without giving a kid a PS-74. If a kid's consistently coming to school without their supplies, that's not something that a kid needs to be suspended for. That's something that you need to call that parent about, and the room service will give you that time to do it. Now, they showed us the statistics, and the actual calls for service decreased in those classes. You did have some kids that recidivated, you know, I mean, you're gonna have that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it worked. And I don't know about you, but when I call a principal and I say, I need you to come up here, it's usually because I'm trying to move that kid out. And if the kid is out of the classroom, they're not learning. And we're supposed to be about the children and restorative practices and keeping these kids in the classroom learning. And I really like this, and I have the information about that. It keeps the authority in the teacher's hands because the teacher is sending them out, and the principal that came up with this, he deserves applause. So this is one of the family community resource centers that I saw, which I thought was just amazing. The site coordinator works out of a room. Most of them aren't bigger than a closet, okay? Some of them have a little bit more space than others. And they have, I can't remember exactly how many of them they have, but in their schools where they have high concentrations of poverty, they have these centers. Okay, I need 3 minutes. So the family community resource centers, this one right here, this is the high school one I'm showing you. But you see people donate shoes, clothes, they keep them in there for the kids. It takes that out of the school counselors' hands. You know how how counselors all have bags of clothes in their closet? They won't have to do that in these schools where there's these high needs. They also have a van. They have 2 vans that are portable family community resource centers. So if you don't have one of these set up in your classroom, you can have one of the vans come around. And they have food pantry where they work closely. Earlier this year, we had the lady come in from the Capital Food Bank. And so we have these connections already, but we just got to put it all together and make it happen for the children. I'm going to skip the 6 pillars again. I'm going to skip that. Managing residential growth. You're going to hear me talk about that some more, but not today. So when we put all the pieces together, come on now. It's my fancy stuff. We can show up, speak up, and step up, and we can make a difference. Okay? This is about our kids. Now you can sit and say, well, I need my money. I can't spend a kid. I know you can. All right? But I do need to go into executive session because there's some things that Jennifer and I need to share.